Hi there, I'm Clark Huggins, creator of Reckless Deck. Welcome back. We've got another weekly Sketch Jam video for you. We're gonna do another theme challenge, I think, and this week's theme is sirens. No, not the ones that keep you awake until 3 o'clock in the morning when you live in Queens, the ones that live in our oceans and in our mythology. Now, I'm a native New Englander, and this challenge for me is a little bit special and kind of close to my heart. My dad was a sailor, and I grew up on the water. And my cousins and I joke a lot now as adults about what that was like in our childhood to, how lucky we were to be able to go out on the ocean like we did, but then the utter terror of what was going on below us and that feeling you used to get when something would swish by your legs in the darkness, where, you know, every experience out on the water like that and swimming was like, ooh, what a wonderful day, we're having such a good time, and we could be swallowed by monsters at any moment. So today we have a really fun episode and I'm really excited about it. Yes, we're gonna choose cards for our challenge as we do. But before we get to all that good stuff, I want to give you a very brief rundown on the history of sirens. One of the most famous early appearances of sirens is right here, in Homer's The Odyssey. In it, famed warrior Odysseus has just a bitch of a time trying to get home to his wife and kids after the Trojan War. And one of his most famous adventures is trying to get by the sirens on their island. He directs all of his sailors to stuff their ears with beeswax so they can't hear the sirens' songs. And he insists that they lash him to the mast. Now, apparently, when they go by Sirens Island, he basically went bananas, begging to be set free so he could sail their ship right up to their front door. Now, luckily, the sailors knew their knots and his bonds held. And once it was all over with, Odysseus is quoted as saying, "Wow, I feel like a complete tool." But hold on, the very first sirens were depicted as half woman, half bird. They were actually depicted as mostly bird, with large women's heads, bird feathers, and scaly feet. Later on, they were depicted as having women's bodies, the legs of birds, with or without feathers, often holding harps or lyres. But it wasn't until the Middle Ages that sirens went from being bird women to mermaids or water women. Okay, so now why the switch? One source says that it's because scholars in the Middle Ages had access to the ancient Greek texts, but not the art. So what these scholars read to them sounded a lot like existing mermaid legends that they were already familiar with. Now, it looks like there was actually even an in-between period where sirens had both bird wings and mermaid tails. Artists of the Victorian era explored mythology a great deal, along with it the idea of sirens and mermaids. It's largely these paintings that cement the image of the siren we have today in popular culture. At the time, sirens and mermaids were often used as symbols for female sexuality that suited the morals of the time, when sex and intimacy were considered shameful. Sirens were desirable, but ultimately unattainable. One source says, the mermaid tail is the ultimate chastity belt. Here's one last fun character detail I want to leave you with, which I think actually came from the fan page for the Siren TV show on Hulu. It says, sirens are predators, killers, and dangerous creatures, seducing men with their voices and bodies. And now it's time for us to choose our cards, okay? And I've done what you may have seen me do in a previous video, which is make myself a little mini deck. I've gone through all the cards in Volume 1, Volume 2, and across all the expansions, and I've made myself a little mini deck with cards that are relevant to creating our siren character, even if they're sort of borderline. You know, I really tried to use my imagination and choose things that I felt like maybe that I could work in, even if they sounded a little strange. So now, let's use this mini deck and choose our cards. All right, your first one for your siren is Claws. All right, she's already got a little bit of an edge to her. Next is a Circlet, or Tiara. Your third prompt, Scales. All right, she's coming together really, really cool. All right, your fourth prompt, I think, yeah, let's do 5 altogether. Let's do 5 altogether. Mirror. Oh, an awesome object prompt for you. And your fifth prompt for your siren is an amulet or a charm. So there you go. Let's take a look at those 5 cards together again. Claws, Circlet or Tiara, Scales, Mirror, Amulet or Charm. Hey, okay, so you've got your prompt and you should be good to go. You're on your way to making your very own extremely cool siren character. Now, before we go, the one last thing I want to leave you with is a book recommendation. And this relates very much back to the thing that I was saying earlier about, as a kid, swimming in the ocean and that terrible feeling you would get when something would go wriggling by your legs in the darkness. An author you may be familiar with named Mira Grant, she's written a lot of really popular books, a couple of years ago wrote a novella called Rolling in the Deep, which was about the discovery of sirens in our world, and they turned out to be very, very much less than friendly. And I loved it, and my only issue with the book at the time was that it wasn't long enough for me. Because it was a novella, I really wanted a full-length book that was this story, and it turns out that last fall she published a sequel to it that was a full-length book called Into the Drowning Deep. It took me a while to find out that that was actually a thing, but when I did, I immediately downloaded it and kind of devoured it. Really, really loved it. And that is what really put this challenge in my mind and wanted to share the idea of creating a siren character with you guys. So if you're looking for a book with maybe you get some extra time on your hands, if you want a book that can really get your head inside the mood or the theme of this challenge, I'd recommend those books really highly. I think they're really good. Please participate in this one. I love this challenge and I'm definitely going to be doing this one myself. So if you've got something you want to share, please don't forget #RecklessDeck. Put it up on social so we can all take a look. Maybe we can actually gather some together and show them off in one of our next videos. Please hit like and subscribe. We'd really love to hear from you. Go make yourselves an extremely cool siren, and I will see you next time. All right? Right on. Thanks.